All right, we'll get started. Are there any questions about the format for the debate? So our first question is for Ben. Ben, you discuss a revisioning of students' BEDS communication. In 2012, VP Administration and Finance Patel initiated the digital signage project to convert existing poster boards into digital screens. Currently, only 4 screens may be installed each year, resulting in slow progress in the conversion of poster boards to digital signage. How will you ensure continuity to this project, and what will you do to speed up this project? So the order for this will be Elizabeth, Ragda, then Ben.
So the digital signage project is going to be a long-term project, but one thing we can do is really work with plant ops to kind of speed up that process. I've had a lot of experience dealing with plant ops in renovating our C&D, and it's a slow process, but you can always put that extra pressure on to really get what you're looking for. The other thing we can do in the meantime is really focus on releasing what we're putting on digital signs online as well. So if students aren't seeing the digital signs because there aren't that many of them, they can still see the same information.
Okay, so I think digital signs is something that's it's a smart idea to keep going, to continue it and everything. But yeah, I do agree with Elizabeth that it is a long-term plan. It's going to be hard to find the budget and everything to actually purchase all these screens and put them all around campuses. But it is a good idea, and it's one of the long-term plans, not a short-term one that could be done in 1 year. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. So in terms of the digital signage, there's really nothing that you can do about the installation process. I think continuing to improve our relationship with Plan Ops is something that will push that a long way. But I had a great conversation with Brad the other day about the usage of more solid state drives and improving the hardware that we have at the back end. And I think that will help with this process.
You now have 3 minutes of open debate.
Want to start? Pivot. All right, so I will save us all. I think that digital signage is really just one piece of the bigger marketing picture. So I think that a lot of our students don't see posters anymore, and we've really seen that. And I think one area that we can really improve on is how our executive communicate with students. The executive have unique portfolios, and the marketing team is doing a great job at sharing the general Fed's vision, and we could really beef up our communication as an exec to showcase the unique pieces of our portfolio, and that's something I think that would be really important, and my team is really committed to.
Okay, so I think yes, the students because there are so many posters around all the time and everything, that students reach the level where they don't really notice what is on the posters anymore. But at the same time, I don't think we should undermine how effective they are. I think if we just focus on maybe the placement of them and things like that, that would be something that might show a change in the things, as well as, of course, the importance of online communication. That's completely true, and something that I think all of us candidates have in common, which is to make sure that we're improving the marketing of all the events and everything that's happening with every single club and society online, because at the end of the day, everyone right now, to check anything, it's always online, and that's the most effective way to reach the students if we find the right way to do it exactly through the different social platforms that Feds uses.
So I'm not sure, are we discussing facilities or marketing right now? Because is facilities the first topic?
Marketing.
Okay, so I just have a question for Liz. In your platform, you guys talk about using Reddit and all these different social media platforms, and a lot of these platforms we are either already on or we're pushed to the max in terms of trying to actually utilize them. I just wonder how you're going to improve our capacity or increase our capacity to use these social media sites in order to improve their communication?
So that's a really great question. We are on certain social media platforms, and I agree there's a lot of, there are certain platforms we're really to the max on, but there are also untapped opportunities. The thing that we can really focus on is that multimedia. You'll notice that most of your friends, if they're sharing things, they're usually sharing things like pictures and videos, and that's really something where we can beef up our capacity. And the way...
Cool. Thanks for your answer.
Nothing to add.
We'll move on to question number 2. So this question is for Liz. Liz, a significant platform point for you and your team has been increasing support to societies and their autonomy. A recurring issue for the UW Optometry Student Society is our health and dental plan providers' partnership with Clearly Contacts, an organization that allows consumers to purchase contacts while bypassing their optometrists and dispensing fees. Where do you draw the line on supporting societies and their concerns versus keeping costs down for all students on campus? The order for this question is Ragda, Ben, then Liz.
So my opinion on this specific thing would be, I think all societies and all students should be equal when it's regarding the specific fees, feds fees, or the health and dental issue, or the vision budget for this specific question. I have nothing else to add to that because I didn't have it in.
And this has been a topic throughout the election, I really think a lot of it has to do with student input on how they feel they should be represented for this. As VPOF, you really do end up focusing on the bottom line and the costs that we can cut for students. As long as other societies are okay with this move, I really think it's an opportunity for us to save some people some money, which is exactly what students want.
This is an interesting situation because Clearly Contacts really does provide a lot of value to students, especially a student that has their vision stays regular and they can purchase their contacts online from the comfort of their home. It is a situation where we really should be talking to our health plan provider and urging them to warn students to get those regular appointments so that we're fulfilling both sides of the issue.
3 minutes of open debate.
I just want to add that, it is important, of course, to save students some money. And this is something also that was brought up, I think, when my team and I talked about the students in the architecture campus, how their feds fee is less than everyone else's fee. And this is something that I think we should just look into more. It's just something that you can basically work through by addressing it more and analyzing it more and researching about it more?
Not necessarily a question for either candidate, but I really think in terms of Team Spark and our focus on communication, this is another one of those areas that we can really inform students about what FEDS actually does for them. So the health and dental plan is something that we can really sort of put on that brag list that we keep talking about, and making sure that students are aware that FEDS is really doing something that is actually affecting their everyday life. So I really think that it's an opportunity for FEDS.
I think Ben makes a really good point. We really do need to start telling students how great of a health and dental plan we have and how easy it is to really get your money's worth out of the plan. We've seen a lot of students who are complaining, I don't know what FEDS does, why do I pay? But the health and dental plan is an amazing example of somewhere where you can get your full FEDS fee back just by using the plan. It's only $300 a year, and it's easy to get that back in just dental and vision alone. And I think it's a great opportunity for our students, and I think what we should be doing with the health and dental plan is asking students if there's anything missing, if there's something that we should be discussing with our plan provider about a new opportunity or something that's missing, and even looking at the possibility of expanding it to include more mental health services.
If you have nothing else to add, Liz, you have 30 seconds for a closing statement.
So I think that the health and dental plan is one of the best services that FEDS provides, and I think it's something that I'd love to work towards making sure it stays at a low cost to students, and also looking at if there's any areas where we can improve it and make sure that we're serving students effectively. And at the end of the day, I think that advertising our plan and showcasing how great it is something that we can really show a success and show students the value for their money through FEDS.
Thank you. Ragda, in your platform, you discussed that regular space and maintenance checks should be completed in the Student Life Center. Building maintenance is something that can only be completed by the university's plant operations staff, which can often take up to several months to address issues depending on the severity of the problem. How can you ensure that you will be able to complete this platform point when you are at the mercy of an external body? The order for this question is Liz, Ben, Ragda.
So I think that plant operations is one of those areas that can be challenging to work with, but they also do a lot of great work for students. And I think a way for us to make sure that we're maintaining our facilities is really stressing how important it is to students and the level of severity of any issues we have. And I think the other thing is just looking at areas where we can improve our facilities on our own and really build up some of the things that students need.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, it really comes down to the relationship that Feds and PlanOps has. There's not much that you can do in terms of the timing of everything. Like it's kind of set in stone. But what we can do is make sure that Feds is efficient in its requests. So making sure things are prioritized and making sure that when we are making a request, we're including everything that needs to be requested so that they can get the job done quickly.
There will now be 3 minutes of open debate.
Oh, she has to answer it.
Sorry, Ragda.
Okay, so yes, of course, sometimes there is nothing that we could do about waiting around for things to happen. But this specific platform point, the reason I added it was because I saw something basically where there was a person in a wheelchair trying to enter the SLC. However, the disability button was not working. So this is something that maybe just as Feds addressing the issue, knowing that this thing exists, this is not working, and we're trying to fix it, just letting the students know about that, it's good. Thanks.
Now there will be 3 minutes of open debate.
Speak up, Natasha. We can't even hear you.
I apologize.
So Ragda, just a quick question. In terms of making those like monthly and like frequent trips around the SLC, is that going to add like too much stress and strain to the staff that are already working? Like, is it going to be something that adds unwanted work for them when they can be focusing on other things?
I don't think that specific thing would add any stress or unwanted like additional work, basically, because at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to look over these things. It's our responsibility to make sure that everything we're offering the students is actually available and working properly for everyone. So I think like going to plant ops and things like that, yes, this might take time, but like as personally, any volunteer or any of the execs while they're just walking around in SLC, looking at those tiny things that work or looking at those things that don't work, that's something that won't take like more than, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes out of the day. And I think that it's a very small gesture, but it would do a lot in the long run. Yeah.
So one of my Team Nova's big platform points is starting the renovations on the SLC. The space audit will be hopefully completed in April, and we'll start to kind of implement those results. I think one big area that relates to facilities and maintenance is actually the things that students use that we often forget about. So for example, microwaves. The only microwave in the SLC right now is very old, and it's something that we could immediately benefit students. It's not a huge renovation. It's not something that requires plant ops. It's something that would bring a lot of benefit to our students, and something I think that we really should be looking at going forward.
So I'm curious as to how significant you think these renovations are going to be. Like you mentioned a microwave, but are there things that are going to cost students more money? Like how are you planning on funding all of this?
So we do have funds available, and there's also the opportunity to look at things like the Student Life Endowment Fund to cover some of those costs. And it doesn't always have to be an expensive renovation. That's an inexpensive one. Looking at getting in a couple more chairs and couches within the SLC, also not that expensive, but something that immediately benefits students.
I have nothing to add.
Ragda, you have 30 seconds for a closing response.
Okay, so basically, I think that this platform point that I mentioned about having the regular checkups is something that's really important, because it's something that it's not very hard to accomplish. It takes very little to actually go around and see what are the issues that like direct issues that maybe you could fix or take an initiative and make it work really fast, and it won't add any work stress or anything on anyone that existing in feds, because it's just something that falls under our responsibility already.
Thank you. I would just like to remind that any individuals in the Great Hall that there is a debate happening. You are more than welcome to come and watch the debate, but I do ask that if you are sitting around the room that you are respectful to the candidates who are up here defending their platforms. Thank you. This question is for Ben. Much of your platform lacks specific action items, and the action items do not always align with your stated philosophical approach. Will you be relying on full-time staff to flesh out your ideas and execute, or do you have more concrete action items to accompany your platform points? The order for this question is Ragda, Liz, then Ben.
So I think that it's important to have specific action plans that a candidate has to actually implement once they're in position. In addition to that, of course, working together with the rest of the team is very important, but having specific action plans like the bunch of ideas that I have basically is important to mention, so you can just let the students know what you want to do and what your plan is and how you are going to make a change and how you're going to make things better.
So in terms of my platform, I feel that a lot of the things I'm proposing are things that I can accomplish myself with some help from staff, but not an extensive amount. I think they're concrete items, like improving the budget and showcasing to students where their money is going. That's something that really I can work on the data and all the numbers behind it, and then it's a matter of presentation. So I do feel that these are platform points that are specific and able for me to accomplish with the help of some of the staff.
Fantastic question, by the way. So in terms of the platform that I put forward, I've mentioned it multiple times, both in my platform as well as in the debates. It's all about efficiency in this role. As VPOF, if I come in with a multitude of different things that I want to do, I'm going to be wasting time, I'm going to be wasting resources of programs and projects that are already started. So the things that I propose were simple and easy to attain.
You now have 3 minutes of open debate.
So a question for Liz. I wonder, have you looked at the day-to-day schedule of any of the VPs? Like there's so many different meetings, there's so many different task forces that you're involved in. I just wonder how you're going to be able to accomplish all that. Like I printed out your platform and it's like 4 pages long. I just wonder like how is it reasonable that you're going to come through on all those promises?
I think my platform is extremely reasonable. Yes, I've looked at the level of work for the VPs. Explaining a platform online takes a little bit more than often the amount of work that goes into it. So for example, you already need to complete a budget. Making sure that you showcase the information to students is a small extra step that we can accomplish easily. And not all of those have to be done right away. You have 12 months. I'd rather put forward a platform that shows students what I'd like to do in 12 months and not in 3 months. And showing an ambitious platform that's realistic so that students are getting the most out of the person that they elect.
I think the points that in a candidate's platform need to be realistic and achievable within 1 year. That's one of the most important things, because in addition, because like Ben said, there are a lot of things that already come with the role of the VP of Operations and Finance. So you want to make sure that the things that you're telling the students that you will.
We'll pause the time. Let me start again.
Keep going.
Yeah. So I lost my train of thoughts. Basically. Basically having the candidate whatever actions they're going to do, just to make sure that the students know that, because that's the whole point of elections every year, to have new ideas, new people come in and try to improve or add on to the improvements that the executives have already done, and just continue down the road and just go down the same path.
All right. So Ben, you now have a 30-second response.
So, like I already mentioned, the whole idea behind this role, I feel, is the efficiency of the role. When you're in the VPOF position, you're surrounded by full-time staff that are experts in what they do. There's a reason that we've hired them and pay them to do their job. And as a VPOF, I really get the privilege to set that strategic direction and motivate them and ensure that they have the resources to work with. Hence the reason I tried not to make promises that I can't keep in my platform.
Thank you. Ragda, in your platform, you wish to improve the quality of food within two of our commercial services, International News and The Bomber. The Vice President Operations and Finance role is also to represent students to the university on food and business operations. When it comes to food quality and food options on campus, would you rather feds spend the time and resources changing their own food options or advocating for better food options in the university's offerings? The order for this question is Ben, Liz, Ragda.
So I really think that we should be focusing on what we can do. In terms of advocating to the university, that is always a potential option, but I really think that we should take control of what we can take control of and begin to offer better food and more options in the services that we do now have. So negotiating with International News, we're currently looking into a menu examination for Bomber, those sorts of things.
I do think it's important for us to make sure we're providing our students with great food options from our own businesses, but I think that also we need to recognize that we are lacking certain food options around campus, and that does include our own businesses. I think that we really need to start advocating to the university to make sure that healthy food isn't necessarily more expensive than something that isn't healthy, so students aren't being penalized and trying to choose cost-effective versus something that's healthy, and really focusing on and asking the university.
Okay, so basically, I think that my answer to that question would be more food options, but within the existing services that we do have, one of the main things that we've been asking around students and everything, and they have complaints about the service, the quality of service at Bomber, because the kitchen is just too small and sometimes the things don't get done too fast. So if we have space to help support the preparations for Bomber and International News, that would be beneficial in increasing.
There will now be 3 minutes of open debate.
So I think, not necessarily a question to you, Agda, but something that I had the fantastic opportunity to talk to Mike Allner the other day, and we discussed a lot about the idea of creating a prep kitchen for feds, using the equipment that we already have from the Feds Hall that we got removed out of Feds Hall. So the initial startup costs would be low, and the availability of having an extra kitchen to support clubs, services, as well as all the commercial services that we have. So rather than having all the wraps and sandwiches made out of house, we could prep them here in the SLC and work that way and save ourselves money and time.
I agree with that point. I actually had the same conversation with Mike, and yeah, basically creating that prep kitchen with the things that the space would be ready and the equipment is already ready. It would just improve the quality of service at Bomber, and that would just push students to enjoy Bomber better, go there more, and just. Basically, it's like an endless cycle that's just benefiting students as well as feds, generating revenues, giving the students what they want. And then for adding more food options, there can always be surveys done for students just to know if they want something that basically we're not offering. And then if we do have that prep kitchen, we will be able to have the opportunity to provide the students with what they actually want.
So I think that's actually a really great idea. I think it could really improve the SLC, but I think we're really forgetting that a lot of students actually don't end up at the SLC. They're down in engineering and arts, and they're not considering the SLC at all when they're considering lunch. And I think we do need to start talking to food services and looking at even collaborating with our C&Ds. If we were to implement this prep kitchen, maybe we can offer some of these products to the C&Ds so that every student has access. I think that it's nice to be focused on our own internal businesses because it's easy, but we really should be talking to the university about more options for students across campus, especially people with allergies or dietary restrictions who really struggle to find food on campus. And that's something that I think is really important, a big part of the VPOF role in terms of advocating for students.
That's something as well that came up during my conversation with Mike, and I think that Bomber right now is working on a new menu for September, and I think the plans are to include more healthier food options, including gluten-free or whatever it is that the students are looking for. So that's something that we could do.
All right. So, Ragda, you now have 30 seconds for a closing statement.
Okay, I'll just continue off what I was saying. So basically, yeah, so to implement more healthier food options in the existing Bomber. And something that was brought up that I wanted to add, basically when some students were asking, why don't we just open a new, whatever, store or something like that that offers just healthy food options. That could be a disadvantage because we don't want to create more competition against our existing feds, things like International News and Wasabi. We don't want to take them away from that and go somewhere else. We can just implement what they're looking for into our existing services.
Thank you. Liz, a significant portion of the Vice President Operations and Finance responsibility is assisting with the prioritization of projects in our support areas. Your team's platform includes several projects that will require time and resources of our IT department. Since our IT department currently has many projects on the go that are critical to maintain current service levels across our organization, how can you be sure that you will accomplish your platform without significantly increasing the cost to students? The order for this question is Ben, Ragda, Liz.
So I think in terms of the IT department specifically, it's something where we need to allow them the space to sort of start to catch up. I, once again, had a great conversation with Brad the other day, and now that he has a full, competent working staff, he's starting to make ground on the projects that he's working with, and this is something that we can allow him to do within his role.
Okay, so I think for that reason, like, yes, like you said, the project management and everything, that's why it's important to have not simple, but at the same time, not too complicated of points of platforms. You want to work with something that's achievable because so that way, like with all these goals, in addition to all the responsibilities that fall under you as a VP, you're able to accomplish every one of your points in the platform successfully and at the same time not neglect all the other responsibilities that you have.
So I think this is a great question. My team has two projects that are a little bit IT heavy, the first being an SLC jukebox and the second being an event calendar and involvement compass that expands on our current calendar. The SLC jukebox is really one that you could put to a student design competition. It's creative, you don't need data, it's very easy for that to happen. So it's not one that would be extensive on IT. And the other side is the event calendar, which the biggest problem is actually how the website works, and that's really the thing that makes that complicated, and there are ways to fix that.
You now have 3 minutes of open debate.
So I'm getting the flack on my IT projects, which are both realistic and easy to accomplish within the current constraints of IT, but both Ben and Ragda, you both have projects that are also IT heavy, including fixing the website and creating mobile apps. Could you guys comment on how you're actually going to be able to accomplish those?
Yeah, I think, well, for our team's platform and my platform specifically, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of tapping into the potential that we have here on campus. So competitions, class projects, working with the students here on campus as a resource, because really we do have fantastically talented students, and we need to start utilizing them and engaging them.
So I think we could accomplish that basically by we already fortunately that we already have the marketing department offers like a lot of part-time jobs for students, and the students, I think, since this is the student driven and everything, that they're the ones that have the exact idea of how the other students want to see specific things being marketed, making the website more user friendly, and all these kind of things. So if we just have maybe more volunteer positions as well in that, and Ben's idea as well with the whole class competitions, Team Spark, that's a very great idea, and it's all about basically just surveying and figuring out how to reach the students and what captures their attention and what they actually are looking for, because if you do that well, then you'll definitely get their attention and they will show up to all the events or everything else that you're basically marketing.
While I respect the idea of a student design competition, and that's something we'd love to see with our Jukebox app, the challenge with things like redoing the website and making a Feds app is you really need knowledge of Feds. You can't make changes to the website without knowing what the organization is doing and really having a good handle of the whole organization. And that's why our IT department's so successful, because they really get the full perspective of the website. So I don't think those are actually feasible as design projects. So it doesn't really make sense to be trying to get students to redesign the Fed's website when most of the problems are actually information problems.
So and I think this is true on all of our platforms. We're not trying to blow the website up and reinvent the wheel. It's just adding extra features. So there is a search function on there, but it doesn't necessarily search the entire website. Like when you go to the clubs, you can't necessarily search all the clubs and stuff. So it's adding little improvements. It's not completely destroying it. We're also looking at coming up on the ending of the contract for the website within about a year. So we can look at finding a new service provider as well. And
Sorry, that's
another
the end of the
option.
debate. Liz, you now have 30 seconds for closing response.
So I think that IT is one of those resources that we often forget about, and I think they really do need more support. I think all three teams are trying to bring in big IT projects. However, I have the experience in managing IT projects, as well as I understand kind of the nuances of the limitations of our website and really how we can work around those and make sure that we're not burdening IT with new projects.
So those are all of the questions from the exec. Thank you. I hope they were challenging. We'll now take some questions from the audience. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond.
Okay, so the second question that was asked was actually about like the autonomy of student societies compared to the importance of the greater good for students. And it sort of turned into the health and dental plan is great, which it is. So I was wondering if you guys would actually just answer like what sort of belief you have about the student society's autonomy.
Who answers first?
We'll go Ben, Liz, Ragda.
So in terms of society's autonomy, through my experience with Awesome, there really is a massive disconnect between the societies and what they're doing and what Feds is doing. And if, as an organization, we want to increase our relevancy and our connection to students, I think the student societies is where we need to start and start engaging them and working with them more closely. Although they need the freedom to do what they can do, but.
So I think Ben's really right. It's really about making sure that we give the societies freedom, but we also connect them back to Feds. And I think good ways of doing that are really bringing our clubs and our services to the societies. The way we can use a service like Glow in a faculty that doesn't have that presence, and also looking at ways we can support the societies, whether it's helping them to find fair trade options or even just increasing their operations and their services.
So yeah, I think it is important, of course, to get the student societies, to have all the students around campus to be more aware of those student societies and what they do and what they offer. And I guess that falls down mainly are on our team's main platform, which is just engaging the students, which is bringing them back, which is basically the first thing that we are going to do and trying to do is just let the students know what the societies do, what FEDS does, and
Thank you for that question. Are there any others? The lady in the front.
This is the question we've all been anxiously anticipating.
I'm Cheryl Flug, and I'm the accounting manager. And as part of the VP operations, a large portion of your portfolio is actually being part of the full-time staff personnel committee. And I wondered, Liz, what policy governs full-time staff on campus?
There are a couple of policies that govern full-time staff on campus. We run under the university's HR system, so that controls things like pay raises, how we assess our staff, the evaluation forms, and all of those sorts of elements. The specific policy number has totally escaped me, but I have read it and I do understand what's involved.
Ragda, then Ben.
I do not. I'll be honest.
I do not either.
Sorry.
But learn, we'll
I know
learn.
the policy, just not the number.
All right, that wraps up the debate for the VPOF candidates.
Thank you.
VP Internal, you're up next.
Well done. That was such an odd one. Good job.